Hello, 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 Facebook fam. Welcome to another Fearless Stories conversation. So, hello, Kia. You are already in here. Awesome, awesome lady. Share, comment, send us a high five, put it out there onto a watch party. Let us multiply this conversation. Jump on. I see folk jumping in. Yes, hello, good evening, good evening. Awesome. It is great to see you in the place. I'm so excited about this conversation and the opportunity to talk with this lady right here, Shayla Renee.
Yes.
And how she has let me get our watch party started here. Yes, come on in, everybody. Let me see you. Let me see you. Show up. Yes. Awesome. I see you jumping on. Now, this is a conversation that has been long awaited. We were supposed to have this conversation months ago, but everything in the right season. Hello, Ivania, Juanetta. Yes, hi, Mary. Welcome, welcome. It is awesome to see you jumping in, jumping on. Let us know you are in the place. So, this conversation is one in which I have had the pleasure of being able to sit down with Shayla and her husband. I've known her husband for a couple of years now. And so having the pleasure of being able to have a dialogue with both of them on your speaking platform, your books,
Yes.
yes, and your blog and all of the powerful things you are doing as a woman who has conquered a lot, who has overcome a lot, and is actively empowering other women to do the same thing. So
Yes.
that is why I am so excited that you are here with us tonight. And so, Shayla, I want you to just share a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, and just introduce yourself to the Fearless community.
Okay, well, my name is Shayla Renee. I'm a wife. I am a mother of a 4-year-old son. I am a sister and a friend. I am an author and an entrepreneur, and I am a women's wellness coach. But above all that, and most importantly, I identify as a child of God.
Amen.
And that's important because, even though I come from a very loving and very caring family,
Mhm.
it was never instilled in me to actually try to figure out what my identity was or is. So I found myself like from a young child, trying to figure out who I was as a person. And when I was very young, at the age of 7, I picked up the game of basketball. And I wrote it in your blog a little bit about how I picked up the game. The first day I picked up the ball, I was in love. And I was naturally talented. I come from a very athletic family. So that wasn't really a surprise, but that was basketball became my life. It became who I was. I identified as a basketball player. And from the age of 7 all the way up to the age of 16, that's who I was. I was a basketball player. And by the time I was 17 in the 11th grade, I had to quit basketball because I had a debilitating illness that did not allow me to run up and down the basketball court any longer. So I found myself wondering, if I identify as a basketball player and I no longer play basketball, who am I?
And you know what? That question for many of us,
Mm-hmm.
one that I can say, I know for myself,
Mm-hmm.
struggling with actually connecting with who am I
Mm-hmm.
outside of what I do.
Yes.
And
Yes.
ladies, those of you who are
Yes.
on and you are all streaming in here, I see you.
Yes.
Drop into the text. Is that a truth? Is that a truth that we can lose who we are at our core
Mm-hmm.
because we get confused about or get distracted by
Mm-hmm.
the stuff we're doing and the
Mm-hmm.
people we are around?
Yes, yes. And, I found that to be true. I didn't figure out, I didn't become grounded as far as my identity is in a child of God until probably my 30s. Like my early 20s, I skipped from being a basketball player until my early 20s. I got into this crazy relationship that I was in for 5 years. And it was a toxic and abusive relationship. And um, I pretty much, my whole life was surrounded, the relationship was who I was. So I was this person's girlfriend. That's who I identified as. And I couldn't see myself outside of being this person's girlfriend. And it's funny because I found that, when you place your identity in things that are not steady or stable or never changing, that's where we become consumed. And then that's when we it's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take that away, now you're trying to figure out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent 5 years in this relationship. You know, 3 years past the date of, I mentioned in my book, He Almost Stole My Life. I found out he was married in when I was 2 years into this relationship. I
Wow.
stayed 3 years longer, you know, because I identified as this person's girlfriend. And then once I finally, when God finally, snatched me out and I decided to finally listen to God. And then I saw, like,
Now that'll preach all by itself. When
listen,
we
listen.
finally listen.
When I finally listened and I understood that I wasn't going to change him and what God told me about him was true. See, I was trying to question God, like, are you sure?
Are you
Because
sure?
because I think, he's going to church now. So, I think that
Wow.
he may be able to turn himself around. He's talking about and mind you, he's married.
Yeah.
He's
Uh-huh.
talking about,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I got out of the relationship and I really worked on my relationship with God. I really worked on my own self-esteem because I found out that I had very low, close to no self-esteem. And um, God began to show me some things about myself. I began to reconcile some things about myself and finally forgave myself for a lot of the stuff I did while in that relationship and outside of that relationship. And I really came to the point where, you know what, I'm a child of God. That's who I am. God is steady. God is never changing. God won't be there 1 minute and go on the next. And um, because I came to that realization about myself, that's who I identify as. This is why I do what I do today. This is why I coach women. This is why I put, my whole life out in my books to,
Mm-hmm.
to help women get out of toxic relationships, get the toxic thoughts out of your mind. This is why I'm a women's wellness advocate, because I'm a child of God. And I have it correct. Like, I do what I do because I am who I am. It's not I am what I do. So, we can I remember when my mother passed away. And if I'm saying, like, my mother and my father passed away when I was young. If I'm saying that I'm a daughter, and then all of a sudden I have no parents, who am I? See, all these things are, they can come and go.
Yes.
So it's very important for you to be grounded in something stable.
And
So.
it is so profound when you acknowledge even your process
Mm-hmm.
of identifying the fact that when we put our identity in things that come and go,
Mm-hmm.
when they're gone, there's a vacancy there.
Yes.
And what I heard, even between the lines, when we leave that vacancy, the enemy can come in and
Yes.
write the story.
Yes.
The
Yes.
story that ends up being built on confusion,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we buy it.
Yes.
We buy the
Yes.
story
Yes.
and
We do.
believe it.
We
And,
do.
and then we get caught up in not wanting to let that story go
Yes. Yes.
because we bought into that.
Yes.
First, we allowed the vacancy, we
Mm-hmm.
let the story be written, and we
Mm-hmm.
bought it, and then we don't want to let it go.
Yeah.
But something, when we talk about a fearless story, that
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to just pause for a moment that you said,
Mm-hmm.
is once you actually were obedient,
Yes.
you had to forgive yourself
Yes.
and then connect with truth.
Yes.
And so I heard, let the lie go,
Yeah. Yes.
forgive yourself for
Mm-hmm.
accepting the lie,
Yes.
and then let's lock into truth.
Yes. Let's lock into truth. Because and God is so merciful and so graceful, and he tried. He, as much as you can,
Shayla, Renee,
yeah,
please.
interfere. It was, he told at the beginning of the relationship, he told me, this guy is not for you.
Pause
But
right there. Pause right there. Because I know there is a sister. I'm telling you right now, people are saying, yes, indeed. Oh my God.
yeah,
Truth. That, I mean, it's coming in.
yeah.
When we heard him the first time, will we
Mm-hmm.
not obey?
Yeah.
How many of us, he said something at the very start,
Yes.
and we refuse to submit to what he said from the beginning? I'll
Yes.
let you go ahead, but I'm
Yes.
telling you.
No, it was exactly that. He said, this guy is not for you. I couldn't understand. Here's why. He had a good job. He had a big savings account. He had he drove a nice car. And little old me, I'm this college. I failed out of college. I had a mediocre job. I didn't think I deserved him. So for God to say that this guy is not for you was a knock to my, like, I did not understand where God was coming from. I had to question, is that even God? You know?
Right.
Because God wouldn't present something like this and then take it away. But it wasn't from God. But it took me years to come to that conclusion.
But you just brought something else up.
Mm.
If sometimes we can begin to believe the lie from the enemy because we don't realize our worth.
Yes.
We don't realize the worth, the value.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even see ourselves the way that God sees us.
No.
If we saw ourselves the way God saw us, we would not compromise ourselves for the shiny objects.
No. I really had to grasp the scripture. You are beautifully and wonderfully made, and really understand that God molded me out of clay. And when he saw that I wasn't perfect, he started over. It wasn't anything for me to do. I love the potter and clay story just because of that, because it takes you out of this. This is your God. You belong to the Most High. And I'm telling anyone, any female out there listening to this, that God does not want you suffering on your own because of your own will. He doesn't want you going through things because you're deciding that you want to do this. We are going to go through things in life. It's just the nature of the world. But there's a lot of stuff that we bring on to ourselves. And God does not want us in an unhealthy relationship. He doesn't want us in even friendships. How toxic are some of our friendships?
Yes. But that's just what you just shared. He doesn't want us to stay in it.
No.
He recognized we are flawed.
Mm-hmm.
We are born into a sin. We are
Yes.
flawed, but he doesn't want us to stay
Mm-mm.
in the mistake that we made,
No.
or the trick of the enemy that we bought into.
Yes.
He absolutely doesn't want that to be the permanent, the
Mm-hmm.
period in our story.
No.
But will we believe him for more?
Yeah. And I will say it's difficult because I don't know how many times I tried to get out of the relationship. I don't know how many times I left. I don't know how many times I changed my phone number, and said, okay, God, it's all about you. And it's not about him. But it wasn't until I really, um, I, I let go of the fear of um, the unfamiliar, because I was used to that toxic cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know what life would be like without him. That was an unfamiliar path.
Oh my goodness. I told y'all I was waiting for this conversation because, oh my God, when Nan said, because of disobedience, Laverne said, heavy talk this evening. Kia, oh, you are preaching no toxic relation. I feel y'all ladies, because what you just
Mm-hmm.
said, will we, it is an intentional process of moving away from things that are unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Carla, can she stop reading my life story? I know, Carla, I know. But we get so caught in toxic things
Mm-hmm.
that it begins to feel normal.
Yeah, that's
And,
our normalcy.
right, that's our no, and that then becomes the trap.
Yes. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The fact that it is toxic when toxic becomes your normal.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us now, don't reveal the blog. I want all of you to go on the website and actually read the blog, put a comment, like it,
Yes.
move it,
Yes.
all of that. But I do want you to share. So, recognizing the story that you bought into,
Mm-hmm.
the cycle of accepting things because you didn't feel you were worthy,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that you were caught in a cycle that you felt was normal or
Mm-hmm.
what you deserved,
Mm-hmm.
but it was toxic. How do any of us that
Mm-hmm.
could be in any of those or all of them,
Mm-hmm.
how do we begin a fearless process? What does that look like? When we're talking about writing a fearless story, what does that look like? A fearless process.
A fearless process will be, um, one thing, and this is not in numerical order, but you have to decide each and every day. It may be each and every minute, it may be each and every hour, eventually it's each and every day, that you want something different. It's always about your decisions. We make decisions all all throughout the day. We're making a decision. So you want to make this decision that you want a better life than what you're living now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to remind yourself, it's a constant reminder. It's days when you don't want to get out of bed. I've had days where I did not want to get out of bed. Some of them were because of this terrible relationship I was in. Some of them was because I was out of that relationship that I was in. I've lost a lot of family members. So I had many days where I did not want to get out of bed. So from those days, you have to make a decision that you want something better. And then you have to also understand that something better does not necessarily mean something easier, because it's going to be difficult for you to change this cycle, because like you said, it's that toxic environments, that unhealthy stuff is your normalcy. You're used to whatever you're walking into, whatever you're used to. I remember in this relationship, eventually, because it always becomes like how I was in it was not only emotional and verbal, it was also a physical relationship, also financially abusive relationship. Um, it became to the point where I was trying to figure out what I could do to stop the abuse, because in my head it was all I was doing something wrong. So if I stop this,
Mm-hmm.
then this won't happen. And I realized that it was not me, it was him. He had the issues, but it's all changing your mindset. It took me 5 years to get out of this relationship. Some people are in 20, 30, 40-year relationships. Like mine could have been a small amount of time compared to some people who are in these relationships. Can you imagine being in something 10 plus years and that's your normal, and now you have to wake up and make a decision that you want something different? It's all about your relationship with God. It's all about having healthy support system around. I wouldn't have made it if I didn't have a healthy support system around me. If I didn't, God took friends out of my life that were toxic and that were enabling this relationship because they were in similar relationships. And that was the core of our friendship was that. So
Right. The
God,
pain.
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
Being connected in relationships
yeah,
because of the pain. Wow.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God had to remove and I didn't understand why, all of a sudden I don't, like, my friends were dropping off left and right. And then God put, healthier people around me. I had a really close knit church family and people in my older sister prayed for me. And they didn't know that I was in an abusive relationship. They just knew that I needed to get out of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, who tells people that they're being abused? Most people do not, because you feel shameful and you feel like it's your fault, you're embarrassed. So you don't tell anyone that you're in this relationship unless you have that in common with someone. My
Mm-hmm.
close friends prior to God removing them from my life didn't know I was in an abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may have knew my relationship was toxic or unhealthy, but they were in the same thing. They didn't know it was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And God had to put people in my life that I could open up to, and that I trusted, and that I knew would be there to fill that, when you spoke about that void. Because if you don't fill that void with something healthy,
Yes.
you
Say
know,
it.
if
Say it.
listen, if you don't have something healthy coming in there to fill that void, you're going to run right back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another step. Like it's not you just leaving and doing nothing. It's like asking for God to remove, if you have an issue with alcohol, and you pray for God to He may deliver. I've been delivered from this relationship multiple times. It wasn't a one-time thing. He may deliver you from the alcohol, but if all your friends drink and you go and hang out in bars, most likely you're going to pick up alcohol again. And it's not that God didn't take that away from you. He didn't take the taste away from you. It's that you deliberately chose to go back into that environment because you didn't fill that back up with something healthy. And that's the thing. It has to be something because of that void, you're going to be lonely. There's going to be nights where you're sitting up and you're used to being with that person, or you're used to talking to that person, and now there's nothing there. That's your time with God. That's the
Yes.
time that you need to spend with God. I read during my breakthrough of this, I opened the Bible and started reading it front to back. And I got to the scripture, obedience is better than sacrifice, because I had a moment a few months earlier prior to that where I was on the altar bawling one day, not a church service. I was just during the week sitting there bawling, and God, I'll give you this relationship back. And I got up and I felt good about that. Like, I'm going to work on my relationship with God. I'm giving him this relationship because, that was the only thing I had left in my life, but I'll sacrifice my relationship to you. And then, I got a rude awakening when I read about, sacrifices that or smell like a odor to God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not the best of the best. If God didn't want you in a relationship, it's not a sacrifice for you to get rid. It's not a sacrifice to him.
That wasn't
Your
right.
sacrifice.
That wasn't that wasn't what he was giving you in the first place.
It wasn't the best. It wasn't, go give me your best ram and sacrifice him. It was this ugly, beat up, toxic, unhealthy, dark. I mean, super dark thing. And here you go, God, you can have it. And then feeling good. And God had to tell me, like, that's not, you didn't sacrifice that to me. You did that for yourself. But since now you recognize it, now we can work on our relationship, our vertical relationship.
Because and get obedient with it.
Yes. And so that is what I would say took me out of, that got me out of the relationship. And it was scary. It's not something that's easy. I will never, ever, ever tell anyone that this is something easy. It's hard because you're attached.
So this is what I heard. Decision, it starts with a decision.
Yes.
And the decision is you deserve better.
Yes.
It starts there. But better does not mean easy. I hope y'all are taking notes. I see y'all making comments, but make sure you have pen and paper, because this is what I heard. Yeah, Gail, I feel you. I feel you, Gail. Exactly. So make the decision. You deserve and want better.
Yes.
Better does not mean easy.
No.
Because there is going to be a void.
Yes.
Don't leave the void empty.
No.
Because that's where the enemy will come in.
Fill
the void with healthy things.
Yes.
And obedience to God.
Yes.
One of the healthy things in the physical are trade in any relationship that you have that's only a relationship because you share pain.
Yes.
Get rid of that one.
Yeah.
Focus on the healthy relationship.
Yes.
That's going to support you and reflect the relationship you should have with God.
Yes.
Then you're able to come out of hiding and find safety and reinforce the obedience he asked you for in the first place. Now that's what I heard. I hope y'all, because I got my notes. I hope y'all got your notes, because I took notes. Because fearless journey every day. Because that will preach not only, because you said emotional, physical, financial abuse. All, and verbal abuse, I think you also said.
Yes.
In every avenue of abuse. But that what you just shared will not only help anyone who is watching today, who is even considering that they deserve better. But if we recognize that, will preach to anything that we are finding ourselves stuck in.
Yes.
Anything what we find we deserve starts with the decision.
Yes, it does. Starts with a decision. And it's continuing to make that decision. It's your mindset change. It's a daily thing. It's not something that you're going to decide today, because what happens is a lot of us make decisions off of emotions.
You get ready to preach and it's 5:28. Y'all know what? Make decisions off of emotions.
Yeah. Emotions are fickle. So you're feeling good one day. Yeah, you can leave that guy alone. You're hanging out with your girlfriends, or you're having a good service in church, or you've read a good scripture that really talked to you. So you don't need him then. But during those lonely nights, where you might, you feel when you're starting to feel lonely and you're sad because you miss him, then you're going to give him a call. Because when you make a decision off of emotion, like I had one of my psych courses, it's mental, it's psychological.
Yes.
We don't make decisions off of emotions.
No.
So
it's the worst thing to do.
Yes, it is. You can, even if you're angry and you make a decision that's definitely the wrong side of your brain's logic is not flaring when you're angry. And if you're, feeling good about, if you're feeling high in life, you know, you make an emotional decision,
Mhm.
that changes. But if you base it off of what you need, if it's logical, if your decision that you make is steady when you're upset or when you're happy, then and that's why I said it's a continual thing,
Mhm.
because your emotions change daily. Some of us, our emotions change. I got a 4-year-old son and a husband. My emotion can change. One minute I could be happy, the next minute I could be snapping someone out and trying to figure out what is going. Why am I so? What did I do that for? So you have to make sure your decisions aren't emotional decision. It's because you want something better. Because I'm telling you, I went back to this relationship probably a dozen times in 5 years. I've changed numbers multiple times in this one relationship, and it wasn't until I made the decision, and I continue to make a decision, that I wanted something better. And I didn't know what better looked like, so it was scary.
Yes, because you just shared, when toxic becomes your normal,
Hmm.
better actually is frightening
Yes, it is.
because you're not familiar with it. What
Nope.
what is better, and even the presence of better
Hmm.
could be frightening and
Hmm.
unsettling
Hmm.
because it's so foreign.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Y'all,
And
look, the people, God always wants what's best for his daughter. Yes. Look,
yes.
Gail, they're already asking for part two. Now, y'all know it's 30 minutes. That's what that is what it's 30 minutes. Y'all better cut it out. They said, child, those emotions will get you in trouble. I know
They
that's right,
will.
Kyla.
They will.
And so I want us to come in full circle because we're
Hmm.
at our 30 minutes. And
Okay.
every time I do these interviews, I end up saying, my goodness, 30 minutes goes by so
It
fast.
does. It does.
But what you just shared about making that decision continuously and
Mm-hmm.
not resting on emotion,
Mm-hmm.
I want us to go back to your very first original statement around identity.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that same conversation, if we are making decisions based on the standard, the
Mm-hmm.
constant, the
Mm-hmm.
same way we create or connect with our identity because of the standard that
Mm-hmm.
God has placed in our lives and the standard of who He has said we are.
Mm-hmm.
When we're making that continuous decision every single day, even when we're uncertain, even when we're fearful, we can step into fearlessness because we are making the decision based on the standard that God sets,
Yes. Yes.
not our flesh and
Mm-hmm.
truly not our emotion.
No. No. And that is correct.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm.
God wants great things for us, you know? So,
So, Shayla Renee, I want to first thank you.
oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Show your love in the comments, y'all. Show your love. Look, Key said we need 45 minutes. Well, y'all stop it. Cut it out. Cut it out. Y'all know it's supposed to be 30 minutes long. Look, now I would like for you to think because
Mm-hmm.
inevitably, someone logs in and they are in pain in the very moment
Mm-hmm.
one of our conversations. It happens. I cannot tell you how many times
Mm-hmm.
it has happened. And so I'd like for you to think about the woman who has logged in and just by happenstance, she is struggling to recognize who she is and
Mm-hmm.
why she's here.
Mm-hmm.
What advice, what would you say to her in
Mm-hmm.
this moment to help her recognize that she can access a fearless story to continue the rest of her
Mhm.
story, what would you say to her?
Well, I would say to her that God does not see you the way that you see yourself. Think about what God sent his only begotten son to do for you, to die on the cross for you. Make it personal. He did this for you. And he didn't do it for you to be in a relationship that's tearing you down, that's killing you, that's ruining your relationship with God, which is most important. So you need to think of yourself as a holy priesthood. You know, you are adopted into the family of Christ. And God does not, when I tell you God does not want you in that, he didn't design that for you. That is not equally yoked. He did not say this is a person that you should be with. And you need to recognize that, yeah, you can be, take a moment and be cocky. You are better than that. You are greater than that. But you have to take that. You have to really take, I can sit here and talk to you about this until I'm blue in the face. You really have to understand that for yourself. You really have to allow God to penetrate, really allow God to penetrate your heart, to show you who you are to him. It's not who you are to everyone else. It's to show you who you are and what you mean to him. Because if you didn't mean anything to him, you wouldn't be here.
Yes. If you didn't mean anything to him, you wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
He specifically has put you here
Mm-hmm.
on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Amen.
Man.
Thank you, my sister.
Oh,
Thank you, my sister. So
you.
now, how can they connect with your blog,
Mm-hmm.
connect with your book? Share. I will post your website, but
Okay.
if you can just share your website with, and how can they find you on Instagram or Facebook? Where can they look you up?
My website is shaywrites.com. So that's SHAY WRITES.com. There you'll find my blog. You'll find some inspirational videos. You'll be able to purchase both of my books. So you're pretty much all my contact information is there. If you wanted to reach out via email or even call me, my business line is there. If you want to reach out, Facebook or Instagram, it's the same. Shayla Renee Writes at Facebook and at Instagram. So you can shoot me a message there. I respond pretty quickly. I just want to see you healed. You know, it's not necessary for you to be in what you're in. Like healing is here. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So yes.
It is a powerful thing when a woman of God has connected with her purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and she has said she is being used by God, and she recognizes that other women, you
Mm-hmm.
do not have to stay where you are.
Mm-mm.
Amen. Thank you, my sister. It took us a minute to get
Yes.
this
Yes.
coordinated, but it has blessed my soul. And from
Um,
everything that everyone has been sharing, they want me to have your back already. So we will have to
That's
figure
awesome.
it out.
That's
So,
awesome.
yes, amen, sis. Thank you again.
Thank
And you
you.
have a great rest of your evening.
Oh, you also.
And everyone else, recognize the month of June is the month of gratitude.
Yeah.
So we started this journey in April talking about how do you cultivate joy. And then in May, we identified it starts with our words, the words that we speak over our lives and we speak to one another. And now in June, we are talking about gratitude. So we are going to be moving forward with our posts in what the power of gratitude in our lives. So make sure you share
Mm-hmm.
our conversation tonight. Share it on your page. Continue to tell Shayla Renee how she has impacted you. And we will see you next week.
Yes.
All
See.
righty. Bye bye.
Bye.